Shalom. The 30th of July, and preparing for Friday evening, Book of Hebrews chapter 1. Very interesting, just reading through all the references on what the writer of Hebrews was actually talking about. Now I think if you miss this step in preparing for studying this book, you'll miss the point of what the book is about. Now chapter 1, as I mentioned before, is quotes from Psalm 2, Psalm 45, Psalm 102, Psalm 110, and also Chronicles 17. I think it's verse 11 to 14. And all those passages in the Tanakh basically lay the foundation and the backdrop, set the backdrop and the scene for what the writer of Hebrews was trying to say. Now, his audience, of course, they were learned scholars in the Torah and the Tanakh, and they probably understood all the scripture references he was quoting. Now, as I mentioned previously, in the Hebrew way of teaching, from a scroll, there's no text references, no chapter references. They quoted the phrase. And when you recognize the phrase, you will jump to whatever that passage is. For example, if I use the phrase, God so loved, just 3 words, what do? You immediately recognize John 3:16. God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son. So in the same way, whenever the writer quotes something, you immediately make that connection. Now the problem we have today within the body of Messiah is that nobody studies the Tanakh. Nobody studies the Torah. I'm talking now in general. And for that very reason, they read things in Hebrews chapter 1 and they think, oh, this is a revelation. They think of, first and foremost, it's Paul. Oh, Paul had this revelation, and Paul had this new revelation, and that's why the concept of the new covenant and all those things make perfect sense. So they put their little glasses on with Paul written all over it, and Paul's skewed, perverse perception of what Paul was actually trying to say. They look through that at the book of Hebrews. Now that is basically bending the scripture, or bending the book of Hebrews into a preconceived doctrine, and the text will read just what you want it to say. And even as a translator, you have to be careful, because whatever your belief system is, your core foundational doctrines are what you believe in, those will influence the way you translate that book. And same with Greek, same with Hebrew. English is a second-hand translation of the original. Now, it can also be a third-hand in the case of when you quote a passage from Hebrew text and you replicate that in a Greek message within a New Testament context, then it's translated into English. So now you have a third-hand experience of what the text was actually saying. So for us to dissect the word accurately, we have to go back to the original source. Now when you read normal English and you read a novel or you read a book or read Wikipedia or whatever, and they use words that you don't understand, you just don't make up your own meanings, connecting the dots. No, you open up the Webster Dictionary and you go and find that word and read what it's all about. Then you read that text again. Oh yeah, that's what it means. Now I understand what the writer was saying. And then you can make your conclusion of what the message is actually about. Now, we don't go through the trouble of doing that because that's too hard work. I just rather be passive, sit there and just drink milk from a bottle, and someone need to hold the bottle for me. while I receive the message. Now, Yahweh wants us to grow up. Yahweh wants us to grow into maturity. He wants us, first of all, hold your own bottle. And once you over that phase of drinking milk, then you start getting into the meat. Now, the meat is to understand the scripture study tools. Now, if you followed me over the past couple of years, in all the teachings that I do, I not only teach the text, I don't only teach the message, I teach the techniques. And you can apply those techniques yourself. It doesn't make me superior. You don't have to place me on a pedestal and say, oh, he's got revelation. No, I don't have revelation. I know the techniques now to dissect the scripture and come up with a conclusion with the help of Yahweh's Spirit, of course. So I'm happy to share all those tools with everybody so they can do the same. It's not good to have people dependent upon you when you study the Word, when you teach the Word. You need to teach people to fish, to find their own fish so they can look after themselves when you're not around. We can't place our trust in man. We can only place our trust in Yahweh. And Yahweh's Word in itself, specifically the Hebrew language, ask us actually to learn the techniques in order to decipher the wisdom and the messages within. So that will help us a lot. Now, just quickly before I jump off that topic, just in my study this morning, First Chronicles 17 is about the phrase that is in Hebrews chapter 1 that says, "You are my son and I am your father." If you just read it, yeah, I know that, but where does it come from? Now, that is in the context of King David receiving a prophetic word from Yahweh himself. And he actually revealed there that through David, one of his sons will be the king appointed with an everlasting throne that will have no end. And then Yahweh said, I will be a father to him, that is that king, which we all know is Yeshua the Messiah, and he will be my son. And he will rule from the royal house. So now we have the theme of kingship. We have the royal family concept described there. And in line with that, there are different other passages that link into the words and the phrases which has to do with the concept of royal. So we have the royal priesthood, we have the high priest of Melchizedek. So all of those concepts immediately link into that idea. So what the writer of Hebrews was actually portraying was the royal family, which is the family of Yahweh, and what it consists of, and where that family will be revealed in the physical, and that is through the line of David. And sonship is what's underlined in that prophecy, and that sonship is what is revealed by the writer of Hebrews. And that son is superior to angels. Of course he is, because he's the royal king. He's the son of the Most High, and he's part of the royal family, and all the other created beings are subject to him. So that's just a bit of food for thought I leave with you today in preparation for Friday. So I hope you have a lovely day. Speak to you soon. Shalom.